optimal for health and performance.
Right.
So especially after watching the Game Changers, like every Tom, Dick, and Harry wants to go vegan. So
Okay.
yeah, but basically we when we saw the movie, we thought it was like absolutely biased, and they were comparing apples and oranges, and the facts within which they prove that the vegan is better than the meat based and the omnivorous diet. It was very obscure. So what is your opinion on that?
Um, Look, here's the thing. Today, if overall in the fitness industry, if you want to, let's say, prove that CrossFit is bad for you, right? There are some people who swear by CrossFit, right? They love CrossFit. They train CrossFit. They love CrossFit. They go and compete in CrossFit games and things like that. Now, if I'm somebody who just trains normally. I'm not a big CrossFit fan, but I don't criticize CrossFit. But if somebody said, can you make a list of things that you hate about CrossFit? Then I can start cherry pick information about people getting injured, people going through this, going through that, all those things, and then saying that this is why CrossFit is bad. But the same person who's doing CrossFit can then sit and also tell you 100 reasons why CrossFit is good. So typically, we call this confirmation bias. You're trying to prove a point, and for that you start cherry picking information.
Correct.
In fact, when I asked a lot of vegans, when they were in a much more cooler state of mind, when I asked them, what is your agenda behind doing a vegan diet? So many of them upfront, in a very sensible way, said, look, I know I'm compromising on my nourishment, which
Yeah.
you as a coach, I understand, will not do, because you're trying to make people healthy. You're not trying to turn people vegan. Like, what am I going to do? Hey, I want to lose weight. Yes, turn vegan because we need to save the environment and
Yeah.
protect the animals. So they'll be like, no, I'm not going to pay you for that. That I can do by myself. So obviously, I as a coach, I know I'm somebody who's working around the schedule of a person, the comforts and discomforts. There are people who have religious preferences. There are people who have work schedules to keep and whatnot. And I'm somehow trying to make sure that they're nourished. I mean, that's where even you guys come in, right? Why
Yes.
do you guys have a business today? Because there are people who are so stressed out with their work that they can't be sitting and bothered about telling their mom or their wife or their sister what to cook. They're like, dude, I'll spend that extra money, but I'll just tell this person, this is what I need, give me my food, and then I can go focus on my training and, get the proper progress that I'm looking for. So that
Exactly.
is the reality. But unfortunately, this whole vegan thing is a trend. It's unfortunately a trend. There is a lot of scientific data to support what a vegan diet might be good for you in terms of improving your blood markers and things like that. There is absolutely no doubt on it. If you switch to completely plant-based nutrition, it has a lot of health benefits. But my point is that, if you mix it up with the right sources of nutrition, let's say lean meats,
Yeah.
the good fats, all of that, then obviously you have a more wholesome nutrition. And people, if they obviously go from eating McDonald's to eating a plant-based diet, they obviously are going to see a huge
Yes.
difference.
Yeah.
And most people who go vegan, they go vegan from eating complete junk food to suddenly going vegan. Someone like me who's relatively ate clean most of his life, if I'm going to go vegan, I'm going to see a different kind of reaction in my body where the quality of proteins are compromised. I am going to land up losing muscle. A very common thing I hear from vegans is, I feel very light. Of course, you're feeling light. You're eating all that fiber,
Yeah.
and then they'll say, look at elephants, they are so big by eating that. I mean, do you know how much food an elephant goes
Eats.
through?
Yeah.
Not to mention, an elephant has most which herbivorous animals have the ability to digest cellulose, and as
Yeah.
humans we don't. So the argument can go on and on and on. Like, if you see a koala, it's always going ang ang ang. If you see a cow on the road, it's always going ang ang. In fact, the damn thing will swallow it and again
Again get
regurgitate
it
and
Yeah.
again masticate. So herbivorous animals have to eat through a lot of food to get the required amount of nutrition. Whereas, let's say a non-vegetarian, they just eat like a few egg whites and it's pure albumin. They've got the protein.
Yeah.
So why can't I combine the right kind of vegetables, fruits, with the right kind of protein sources like egg whites, chicken, fish, whatnot, and then you've got an amazing plethora of nutrition in front of you, the best of everything. You got the best of the protein sources, the best of the vitamins, minerals, carbohydrates, fats, all of that. So it's a mix of things, but obviously, this is something that has unfortunately become a trend, like everything else becomes a trend. Like, if it's still a trend to buy an iPhone, You
Yeah.
know that there are, I mean, I own an iPhone, so guilty as accused, right? So, but again, I use an iPhone very clearly because when I was using an Android, I had a lot of hang-ups, and as I've been using an iPhone, I see that my phone works more smoother. So I prefer, like, iPhones are, and generally Apple devices are meant for stupid people. So my laptop, my Mac laptop has never crashed, although it's 5 6 years old. I've never had an issue with an iPhone. But the thing is, again, I'm not obsessed about having the latest iPhone. I know some
Yeah.
people who are very happy with their existing iPhones, but then they're like, but the 11 is out, I need the 11. They have this
Guilty.
itch. So that's the thing. Like, I mean, there are some people who are sitting and thinking, all my friends are vegans, I need to be vegan.
Yes.
Why? Because,
Yes.
I mean, just for social acceptance. So there are both sides of the story. I know some vegans who've come and cried to me, "Do you know how much crap I get from my non-vegetarian friends? Because every time I'm going somewhere, I can't find anything vegan, and they nicely eat." It's the same with a non-vegetarian. He or she gets a lot of crap from maybe if he has a lot of vegan friends. Like, so look, plant-based diets has its benefits if someone wants to do it in the right manner, sensible manner. If their goal is just to be healthy, and if their goals are, you know
Survive.
yes, I mean, not just survival. I think even with endurance sports, considering the amount of carbohydrates you need,
Yes.
a plant-based diet still works. You don't have to take a lot of protein. But if your goals are strength-based, gaining muscle, improving your performance in terms of being stronger and things like that, you definitely need to have a more omnivorous diet. I'm not going to say
Yeah.
just meat-based
Just
diet, an
yeah.
omnivorous diet. But then there are always going to be these genetic freaks, like people who are so genetically gifted. Like, I know this one guy, he's a vegetarian, and he's more ripped and vascular without any performance enhancers, without any meat in his body. The guy can eat garlic bread and grow muscles.
Wow.
So I see a lot of these kind of genetic freaks who will probably not even train for months together, but just enter the gym for a few days and the muscles just come back. So there are a lot of people like that. And if you start cherry picking on those people and say, hey, look, he's a vegetarian, see how great of a physique he has. Yeah, but how many of those people do you see? Do you come across? So this debate needs to be done on a more scientific level. And at
Yeah.
this point of time, what's happening is that the vegans are talking in a manner which is more of a propaganda than
Yeah.
actual science. And of course, the non vegetarians are fighting back with science, but again, because we are non vegetarians or whatever it is, we are completely discounted because we are hurting the environment and we are killing the animals and whatnot. As I mean, just for the record, if someone gives me that nonsense that where a vegan diet is a more environmentally sustainable diet, no,
No.
a lacto over vegetarian diet is a more environmentally sustainable diet, and I'll tell you why. Because the thing is, if everybody in the world went vegan,
Yes.
we are going to have to farm so many vegetables and
Yeah.
fruits. The amount of pressure on agriculture will be so huge. So we rather would still get our protein sources from dairy products. I'm not saying milk as such because I don't recommend milk personally beyond a certain age.
Okay.
As an adult, we are the only species of animals who, as an adult, drink milk, but that's not correct in my opinion. But milk-based products like yogurt, paneer, things like that, and of course eggs, stuff like that. So if you mix up those and have a good amount of plants, fruits in your diet, you're good to go. You have, and that saves the environment, that protects the
Yeah.
animals, that doesn't stress the agricultural land, and you still get good quality vegetables and fruits. But if we go vegan, there will be more pressure to produce processed foods, which is already
Yeah.
what is happening. Even the
Correct.
protein based meat or whatever they've come up with,
Everything is GMO.
everything becomes genetically modified. And because it has to, the crop has to yield more quickly.
Yeah.
And people and then these so-called vegans don't realize the commercial repercussions of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that will create an entirely new set of issues. I mean, we are already at the peak. I was just talking to this friend of mine. He's my junior in school, and he's now a doctor in the US, and he's specialized in pediatric medicine. And I was talking to him, and I said, "What's your opinion on childhood diabetes and general obesity among children?" And he's like, our generation of doctors are diagnosing and treating the highest number of diabetic children and obese children that any generation of doctor has ever done. And I think that itself shows that there is something fundamentally going wrong in the way we eat and we live our lives, right? I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I would get to watch TV for like only an hour or so. It was it was mandatory that as the sun sort of started going down, I would go and play, even after being out of, in school all day. And then I would literally keep playing outside and just roaming around with my friends,
Yes.
tasting
Yeah.
my own sweat and whatnot, until it was almost like the sun had gone down. And then my mom would scream from the fourth floor, like, I'm home. And then I'll be like, okay, fine, I'm coming home. And then I would just go take a shower, have dinner, and maybe watch a little TV and sleep. So my sleep was sorted, my physical activities were sorted, I wasn't overeating.
You were
Even the
entertained as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the thing is, today's children, they just don't do that.
Yeah.
I've seen my own nephew. I've seen a lot of others' kids. Like, there are some people whose kids are like, no, I don't want to go out. Like, why wouldn't you want to go out? Like, there are more things to do today.
Yeah.
But I just don't know whether it's the pressure that the education system is now putting on kids. They're too mentally stressed, or what it is. But if I'm trying to foresee an upcoming issue, I'm always going to see what's happening with our children. And I'm not an expert nutritionist when it comes to kids by any means, but this is just an observational study for me. So when I spoke to this gentleman today who's my junior, this is what he said. And I think that's really alarming for me. And the sad part is that it feeds into my business and the
Yeah.
health sector really well. So
Yeah.
I'm glad all these guys are messing up their health, because end of the day it's us who's going to fix it. I
No.
mean, that's what we're going to do. People like us are going to be like, okay, fine, now let me tell you what to do and fix it. However, from a humanitarian standpoint, that's really sad. And,
Yeah.
we are as a population trying to fix it. But look, when I was born in 1986, the global population was 4 billion. I just turned 33, and I think in another couple of years, the global population is going to touch almost 8 billion. We're almost at 7.5 billion.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a lot of people to feed, and that's a lot of people who think a certain way, and to change the mindset of so many people is difficult. And when you have information out there which only confuses you more and more and more, you are going to rely on more experts who are going to try to give you more sensible advice than just follow the herd. So it's interesting how a vegan trend or any other trend that keeps coming and going is going to shape people's health. But at this point of time, when I see how the health of a child is, or health of most of the teenagers and adults are, it's a very sad state of affairs.
I think we need to have another episode with unbiased facts and figures, for the
Why
people
not?
to choose which is better. Yeah.
It's an endless discussion, guys. I
Yeah.
mean, and the thing is, the whole see, for me, is that's why when I take one client, as much as I can, I try to educate them in the right manner. Like, there's one guy I'm coaching. I mean, just for the sake of an example, there's one guy I'm coaching, and he said, I put on more weight when I eat rice than when I eat roti. And that statement just didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, if I feed you the same number of calories, whether it's through rice or roti, how does it matter? But he has this psychological belief
Yeah.
that if he eats rice, he puts on more weight. Then I said, maybe because rice is just something that you'll end up consuming more to have a sensation of satiety. So maybe you think you are consuming almost the same amount, but maybe unknowingly you have consumed more rice. Because it's not that your body is something different, and oh, nice body mein rice will gain weight and protein won't. So I keep hearing nonsensical things like this, but I obviously somebody who doesn't judge, because I understand that the level of misunderstanding is so in depth and so widespread that forget people having an educated debate on veganism and non-vegetarian or whatever it is. Most people, just in our country especially, most people don't even know how to eat. Like, we are not even taught that in school. Like, my biochemistry teacher in college once gave me, she was a vegetarian, and she once gave me such a guilt trip because I was eating chicken. And when I asked her, where do I get my protein from if I work out? And then she said, dal. And I was thinking, incomplete amino acid profile, essential amino acids. Where am I going to get it from? And I'm like, my biochemistry teacher is telling me this. She herself doesn't apply the education that she is teaching at a undergrad level. So whatever she's teaching is all irrelevant when it comes to her beliefs in
Yes.
how one should eat.
And imagine
And
how
she
much
herself was a
dal,
ball.
how much dal you need to consume to get the right
Forget
amount
how
of
much
protein.
dal you need to consume. I mean,
Yeah.
if the advice also should come from
Correct.
someone who
Yes.
looks a certain way. Like, I mean, it's very important for me to look a certain way when I advise clients. I can't have a paunch and say, eat this. And they'll be like, no, you don't even look as good as what I want to look. Why should I listen to you? So,
Correct. Yeah.
when I see those instances, I am very forgiving and very empathetic to how people think. And I'm very patient with them. And I'm more than willing to have this kind of conversation with as many number of people as possible. And that's why you guys would have seen through my posts and all that, anybody who tried having an argument or a debate with me on this whole vegan thing or whatever, I took it as an opportunity to just try to make them understand my perspective. And I have a very simple perspective. I'm trying to nourish you. I'm trying to give you what your body needs. If a vegan diet fulfills that, great. If not, try to switch to a vegetarian diet, or worst case, try switching to a non-vegetarian diet. But I'm only intending to nourish you. That's my simplest goal. And if you are somebody who is more concerned about environmental damage and this and that, then fine. I'm sure there is a compromise somewhere in between. Like I mentioned, a lacto-vegetarian diet. But somewhere you have to draw a comparison. You can't say that I'll just sacrifice my health completely just to save the environment. I mean, maybe you'll save the environment, but God knows if you save yourself. I don't know what thought is going to run through your mind if you're on deathbed because of malnourishment or whatever.
Yeah.
But the fact is that this is an argument or a debate or a discussion I'm willing to have as many times as possible, because what it teaches me every single time is how each of them think. How each of them have their own perspective and
Yeah.
approach towards it. I don't discount their thought process. So we are in an educated society, and if somebody feels very strongly about something about in a very strong way, they feel something about something, I want to know why. And maybe that will teach me something. I'm open to perspective. I don't get into a discussion or an argument trying to only prove my point. I will very happily hear them out. And if I feel what they're saying makes sense, fine. But if they don't, then I'm going to really take them to school. So, yeah.
I mean, there's definitely a difference between want and need. It's what you want, and actually, it's what you need.
No,
that
look,
you
that's
try
what I'm
to tell
saying. I
people.
mean, as far as having a discussion with people is concerned, I've had a very sensible set of discussions with many people who are vegans, and they said, look, I know I'm not getting the right nourishment. I'm not even going to have that argument with you. But I'm just not comfortable killing something to get my nutrition. So I don't know why they wouldn't exercise a diet where they have egg whites and dairy products. I mean, that's a more sensible way to go about it. But then they have their own things like, no, an egg is something from which a chick comes, and
You
Milk
kill
is
the
for the
life.
calf.
milk. In the milk they keep the calf hungry, and they force the mother to produce the milk. And I mean, fine, then go organic.
Yes.
Go free
Yeah.
range. There are solutions there also, but then they might say, oh, I don't have that kind of money. So I don't know
Exactly.
what's your excuse.
Correct.
You present me a problem, there is a solution, but each
Yes,
to their own.
actually, even the farmers have to do ethical farming rather than putting the chickens in one place and extracting the egg out of it. There are a lot of companies that are promoting the free range eggs and everything, and grass
Yeah,
fed.
but to be very honest, there's a huge
yeah.
price difference between
Correct.
free range
Yes.
eggs and what commercially is available.
Yes.
And I mean, that's like saying everybody should drive an electric car.
I mean, if you have to save the environment and stuff, you must be willing to pay the price, right? That's
Yeah,
what
but the
I
thing
think.
is, if your choices are, I put my kids to school, or I have to pay my monthly EMIs, or I buy this food because it's saving the environment, then obviously reality hits you, and then you realize there are other commitments which require your finances and not this, and then you do land up having
Switching
only
to
that.
okay.
So, which is what I'm trying to say, that the reality is very different than what the trend dictates.
Yes.
Right?
True.
I mean, if people actually try to follow a vegan diet, they are going to heavily rely on processed foods and supplements. And then that goes back to the same, dilemma that a lot of people have, that shouldn't I get most of my nutrition through food? And so then you're back to square one.
Yes.
So that's the thing. Reality and what the trend dictates is very different. So just for the sake of syncing up your reality with your trend, what most people who are these vegans will end up doing is, maybe they'll get a plant-based protein, I don't know, but that will only be the only legitimate protein source they'll have.
Yes.
They'll hardly have any other protein sources in the form of pulses or legumes or tofu and whatnot, and they'll just have some fruits and vegetables that are locally available. So most likely they're starving and just
Yeah.
overloading on carbohydrates. So even if they get somebody to give them a vegan diet, they will not be able to follow that 100% because it's not cheap
Yeah.
It's
to
not
follow a
feasible.
vegan diet
Yes.
also.
Yes.
And again, like you said, if they try going organic and whatnot, then there is a cost factor again. Indians are not a very rich country. I mean, we have money, but most of the money is with the top 1% or 5%.
Yes.
So it's mostly the city folks, right? I mean, I know people who make a ton of money, but they still prefer taking the metro. They don't want to buy a car and whatnot because they feel that's a waste of money. So if somebody is willing to compromise on their comfort despite having all that money with them, what do you think the reality is when it comes to foods and
Yeah.
things like that?
Okay.
So yeah, reality and trends, they don't go hand in hand. And that is exactly what my point of argument has been again and again, again and again. And some people agree, some people don't. But like I said, common sense is not so common. So
Yes.
And before we move on, we just want to give a small disclaimer. We are not against vegans and their beliefs.
Yes.
I don't know how much of that is true now. Right.
So.
Okay.